You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter @RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, except no imitation. I gotta start by previewing the 2 conference championship games. I'll start with the early game, Bengals-Chiefs. A lot of things need to go right for the Bengals to win this game. And I don't mean that as an insult to the Bengals. I have the utmost respect for what they've accomplished this year. Joe Burrow is the first overall pick to lead his team to a conference title game within his first 2 years in the league. But you think about who the Bengals have faced so far. A Raiders team that didn't clinch a playoff berth until the last game of the season. And a Titans team that had their best player functioning at less than 100%. It's a tall order to ask them to go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. Not impossible. Certainly not impossible, but a lot of things need to go right. First and foremost, the Bengals' offensive line needs to step up. Joe Burrow cannot get sacked 9 times again. So that's everyone. Jonah Williams, Quentin Spain, Trey Hopkins, Hakeem Adeniji, and Isaiah Prince. All of those guys need to step up and keep Joe Burrow upright. Joe Burrow is the first quarterback this millennium to win a game when he was sacked at least 9 times. It has happened 6 times in NFL history. Damon Huard did it when he was with the Dolphins. Randall Cunningham did it when he was with the Eagles. Dave Krieg did it as a Seahawk. Cunningham did it again. Steve Pelleur did it as a Cowboy. And David Whitehurst did it as a Packer. So just to be clear, that is something that does not happen. You don't get sacked 9 times and still win. That is just not something that happens a lot. I mean, if I'm Chris Jones, I'm licking my chops right now. Jones led the Chiefs in sacks this year with 9. Would it stun you if he had like 2 or 3 on Sunday? I mean, the Chiefs have a good D-line. It's something that's really underrated about them. So this O-line needs to step up, give Joe Burrow time, and let him do Joe Burrow things. If they do their best impression of Swiss cheese again, I don't see how the Bengals can beat the Chiefs. But they have been doing something well this whole playoffs. And they're going to need to keep doing it. Their defense needs to keep playing well. I know what you're thinking. Of course, Jacob, that's a cop-out answer. The Bengals are going up against Patrick Mahomes. Of course they need to defend him. Yeah, fair enough, but the Bengals actually have a shot at containing him. See, the Bills actually provided the blueprint of how to beat Mahomes. They did disguise their pressure. They did drop guys back who you thought were going to rush. They rushed guys who you didn't think would be coming at Mahomes. And Mahomes was a little frazzled. I mean, realize he had to go on the run a lot in that game. He had 7 carries against the Bills. Is that something that Mahomes can do? The answer is yes, but if you're making Patrick Mahomes beat you with his legs, he's not beating you with his arm. That's a win for the Bills. They got away from that in the fourth quarter. They forgot how to play defense in the final 2 minutes of that game. And in overtime, forget about it. That may have been the easiest touchdown drive of Patrick Mahomes' career. But the Bills did provide the blueprint on how to beat Mahomes. They just didn't have someone spying Mahomes. I want Logan Wilson to spy Patrick Mahomes. Wilson had an excellent game against the Titans. He has good speed. Basically, I want Logan Wilson to only do one thing in this game. Spy Patrick Mahomes. If you're Lou Anarumo, you've got to disguise your pressure. And then when Mahomes rolls out and tries to make something happen, Logan Wilson's there to meet him. I know I'm putting a lot on Wilson's plate, but realize something. This is the AFC title game. Players need to step up. And realistically, all you have to do is close in on Mahomes, and he'll either try to fit a ball into hopefully tight coverage, or he'll just throw it out of bounds. He's not the kind of quarterback who's gonna try to bowl you over. Maybe he'll try to run around you, but if Wilson plays it right, Mahomes won't be able to. Logan Wilson is probably the X factor in this game for the Bengals. I'm not worried about Joe Burrow. I know that he'll be great. He was great when his offensive line wasn't. He threw for over 300 yards despite being sacked 9 times. Only 2 other quarterbacks have done that in NFL history. Krieg and Cunningham. I'm not worried about Burrow. I know he'll be great. I'm not worried about Joe Mixon. He had a good game against the Titans. I'm not worried about Jamar Chase. I'm not worried about T. Higgins. I'm not worried about CJ Uzoma. I'm worried about the Bengals O-line and their defense playing well against a quarterback the likes of which they haven't had to face in these playoffs. I'll say this, maybe I'm coming off as doom and gloom. I really don't mean to. In week 17, the Bengals beat the Chiefs 34-31. It was a great game. Joe Burrow threw for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jamar Chase had 11 catches for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's really not impossible for the Bengals to beat the Chiefs. But I'll say this. It took Herculean efforts by Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase for the Bengals to win that game earlier this month. Herculean efforts don't usually happen that close to each other. Can you expect Burrow to have a very good to great performance? The answer is yes. Can you expect Jamar Chase to have a very good to great performance? The answer is yes. But you shouldn't count on it for victory. That's why you need the offensive line to step up and help Burrow out. And that's why you need the defense to execute. And it's going to be on Lou Anarumo to put a game plan in place that confuses Mahomes enough that you have a chance to win. Will Mahomes get his? The answer is yes. But you can limit his effectiveness. How do you do that? By disguising pressure and making sure that when he rolls out, he doesn't get too far. And perhaps most importantly, when he rolls out and buys time, you've got to stick with those receivers because Mahomes is capable of making those crazy throws on the run. He's done it his whole career. It's certainly a tall ask for any defense to slow down Mahomes, but if the Bengals are going to do it, that's how it's going to happen. I'm looking at guys like Jesse Bates, Mike Hilton, and Von Bell, and Eli Apple too, to stay with these receivers, even when Mahomes buys a little extra time. It's not easy, but you're in the AFC title game. Nothing's going to come easy to you. As for the Chiefs, the number one thing that they need to do is make sure that they get the football back with 13 seconds and all of their timeouts. I still cannot believe that happened. In all seriousness, their defense really needs to step up. Not necessarily in the same way as the Bengals defense. The Bengals defense just needs to keep playing great. Alright, that's fair. That is a fair expectation. They've done it twice so far in these playoffs. I understand that it's been against Derek Carr and Ryan Tannehill, not Patrick Mahomes, but their defense has been really good in these playoffs. I cannot say that about the Chiefs' defense. The Chiefs gave up 21 points to the Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger threw 2 touchdowns. Then against the Bills, Josh Allen threw for over 300 yards. Nearly accounted for 400 total yards and 4 touchdowns. Gabriel Davis had the game of his life. 8 catches for 201 yards and 4 touchdowns. That can't happen again. I mean, if Gabriel Davis is going to kill the Chiefs' defense, and all due respect to Davis, good young wide receiver, but no one's going to mistake him for Andre Reed anytime soon. So if a receiver like Davis can go off, what do you think a guy like Jamar Chase is going to do? What do you think a guy like T. Higgins is going to do? How about Tyler Boyd? He's been quiet in these playoffs. Could you see him stepping up? I could. Look, the Chiefs' rushing defense has been excellent. Najee Harris had a bad game, and so did Devin Singletary. Josh Allen killed the Chiefs, but he's Josh Allen. He's going to get his. I think the Chiefs will do fine against Joe Mixon. Is Mixon better than Harris? The answer is yes, and he's better than Singletary, no question. But I still think the Chiefs' rushing defense will be fine. It's that pass defense that scares the living mercy out of me. Like, I understand if you're a Chiefs fan, you're riding high right now. You just saw your team win one of the greatest games in NFL history. But how did the Bills almost beat you? They almost beat you by Gabriel Davis going off. If Gabriel Davis can have a game like that, what do you think better receivers like Chase, Higgins, Boyd, and Uzoma are going to do? I like Daniel Sorensen, but he needs to step up. Charvarius Ward needs to step up. Juan Thornhill needs to step up. L'Jarius Sneed needs to step up. Mike Hughes needs to step up. You cannot allow these great Bengals receivers to run roughshod over you like Gabriel Davis did. If that happens, if the secondary doesn't ball out, the Bengals can pull off the upset. Like I said, it's really not impossible. There is a path for the Bengals to win this game. Like, the Chiefs are -7 against the Bengals right now. They're -320 on the money line. Put some respect on the Bengals' name. Okay, fair enough. They're going up against the Chiefs. They're the Chiefs. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Tyreek Hill. They have Travis Kelce. I totally get that. But the Bengals are a really, really, really good team. If you wanted to put money on the Bengals covering the spread, I wouldn't mind that. And if you wanted to put money on the Bengals to win this game outright, with that money line, go for it. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying the Bengals are going to win, but covering the spread is very possible. And with a +255 money line, pretty enticing to put a small amount on the Bengals, right? You know, I'll say this before I make my pick official. I do just want to say this. Some people have asked me, have I gotten involved in mobile sports betting since it became legalized in New York? And the answer is yes. I have placed some bets. So far, I've netted $54.22. I'll say this. I don't feel the desire to place a bet on every game I'm watching. Like yesterday, the Islanders were on, and I was watching that game. I didn't have a burning desire to place a bet on the Islanders. It didn't have anything to do with the thought that the Islanders would lose that game. Truthfully, I thought the Islanders could win that game. It's just, I don't have that desire to place a bet on every game I watch. Like, one company has the line, life's more fun with skin in the game, or something like that. I don't like that. Because that basically implies that in order to be invested into a game, you need to have money on it. Look, I understand that putting money on a game makes you more invested, but you don't need to have money riding on a game to get into it. You want me to go down the list of all the sporting events I've watched that I was incredibly into and I didn't have any money on? Take a seat. We're going to be here a while. I don't begrudge people for placing a lot of bets if you have the financial flexibility for it. And that's your choice as an adult. Go for it. Who am I to judge? I mean, I do it sometimes. It's certainly fun. I like doing it. The key to gambling is this. Okay? And write this down. Seriously. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. The biggest bet that I ever placed on a game was $50. Here's what happened. I added $100 to my balance, and I said, you know what, let me have some fun with this. Now I'm at $154.22. You don't need to have thousands of dollars riding on a game. You don't even need to have hundreds of dollars riding on a game. Think about it. When you place a bet, you probably think you're going to win. Unless it's just like, you know what, the money line is so fantastic that I want to put some money down, and if it hits, great. If not, okay. I've done that. But even if you think in your core that your team is going to win, don't go crazy with the betting. It can add up, and by the time you realize it, you're down a significant amount of money. I don't view mobile sports betting as a way to make a ton of money. I really don't. I view it as just a way to have a little more fun with the game. That's it. Like even with these 2 NFL games. Sure, I think the teams I'm going to pick are going to win, but do I want to risk money on it? Do I feel that confident in it that I'm going to risk my hard-earned money on it? Probably not. I like in-game betting. I'll say that. Like when the Buccaneers had that rally going against the Rams, I put a little money down on the Buccaneers when the money line was really good. And what's funny is when Stafford completed his first pass on the last drive, not the big pass to Cup, the first pass, I went to cash out because I would have made money. Wouldn't let me. If it had gone into overtime, maybe I would have cashed out. Maybe it would have depended on the coin toss. I don't know. But look, just use your noodle when you're gambling. I understand that it's a new way to get involved in sports. New things are always exciting. And Lord knows, you see the commercials for DraftKings and FanDuel every 2 seconds. There should be a law that prevents the same company from advertising within a certain time frame. I'm not sure exactly what that would be, but that should seriously be a thing. And look, I know you see the stories of people placing small bets, and with parlays, they win a ton of money. Some high rollers place big bets on teams to win. Don't feel pressured to bet any more than you're comfortable betting. Please, please, please. I don't want to see people who get so involved in mobile sports betting that they end up homeless. It's a real possibility. If you're going to gamble, gamble responsibly. Please, please, please. Alright, now that I'm off my high horse, I do think the Chiefs will win this game. I just think they're the better team. Patrick Mahomes has been playing absolutely insane recently. Back-to-back games with over 375 passing yards. 9 touchdowns to 1 interception. It's not impossible that the Bengals can win this game. And that +7 is tempting. The +255 is tempting. Maybe I'll partake. But I like the Chiefs to win this game. Moving on now to the NFC title game. Niners-Rams. And before we get into anything, I do just want to say this. I have criticized Jimmy Garoppolo a lot. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I do think there are many better quarterbacks than him. But I've got to be fair. Alright, I've said this before. Part of being a great quarterback is winning. I've said that about Daniel Jones. I've said that about Sam Darnold. They don't win, they're not that good. It's just that simple. The job of the quarterback is to win you games. Jimmy Garoppolo, in 2 of the last 3 years, has gotten the Niners to the NFC title game. Okay, I've got to be fair. That's impressive. And what's funny too is that the Niners had no faith in Garoppolo last offseason. They made the big trade to move up to 3rd overall so they could take Trey Lance. Now with his back against the wall, Garoppolo looks like the second coming of Steve Young. Look, does Garoppolo make a ton of mistakes? The answer is yes. No question about that. He gave the Cowboys a great chance to win that game. He gave the Packers a great chance to win that game. But to be in the NFC title game 2 of the last 3 years, that's impressive. I will give Garoppolo credit. I don't think he's great. Alright, I do think that you could do better than him. But I'll say this. If the Niners decide to move on from Garoppolo, if they say Trey Lance had a year to sit back and watch, now he's ready, we want to give our 3rd overall pick a chance, I wouldn't be upset at any team for rolling with Garoppolo. Maybe not as a franchise quarterback, but as a bridge quarterback for a little bit, I could see that working. I didn't say that because of the Jeff Garcia-Mina Kimes controversy. I just said it because we need to put some respect on Garoppolo's name. Maybe he's not great, but he's not terrible either. Now, with that being said, there is no way on this earth that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the seminal reason for the Niners making the Super Bowl. It's going to be playing a ground and pound style of football. It's going to be the football that worked in Dallas and worked in Green Bay. Elijah Mitchell needs to go off. Deebo Samuel needs to go off. And Jimmy Garoppolo can't make any mistakes. I don't know what one step above a game manager is, but that's what Garoppolo is. The thing is, though, when you're at that tier, the expectation is still, don't make mistakes. Just play conservative football. We're not going to put a lot on your plate. It's going to be ground and pound. I'll say this, though. Elijah Mitchell has a knee injury. Now, he practiced yesterday on a limited basis, and I think the smart money is on him playing, but if he doesn't play, that's it. The Niners have no shot. I understand that Deebo Samuel can do everything. Really, really fun player to watch, but Elijah Mitchell is the best pure running back that the Niners have. Without him, San Fran has no chance. And Trent Williams, too, is banged up. If those guys can't go, this is going to be a blowout. As great as the Niners' defense is, and it is great, DeMeco Ryans is going to be a head coach very soon. I'm not saying this head coaching cycle, but maybe the next one? I could see that happening. But you've still got to score points to win. But you can't say enough good things about this Niners defense. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Emmanuel Mosley, Eric Armstead, Jaquiski Tart, Samson Ebukam, Dre Greenlaw, etc., etc. Those guys are insane. You know, it's kind of interesting when Robert Saleh got the Jets head coaching job. I really thought that the Niners defense would take a big hit. It didn't. I don't want to say it got better. It certainly got better from last year to this year, but realize the year before last, the Niners were in the Super Bowl. So let's see what happens in this game before we question Robert Saleh's credentials. I like Saleh. I really do. I think he's a great leader of men. Do I have some criticisms of him? The answer is yes. But for the most part, I really like him. I think he's going to do a good job here. So look, even though Elijah Mitchell probably isn't going to be at 100%, I think he'll play. I think the smart money is on him playing. But even though he won't be at 100%, I think that's safe to say, the Niners need to run the rock like there's no tomorrow, and their defense needs to keep being great. As for the Rams, I think the biggest thing is to let Matthew Stafford cook. Last week, the Rams went with a pretty balanced approach on offense. Stafford attempted 38 passes. Cam Akers had 24 carries. That's pretty balanced. I don't want to see that in this game. You're not going to be able to run against this Niners defense. I mean, we saw what Cam Akers did against a great defense. He fumbled twice. It boggles my mind how Sonny Michel didn't get involved more. Sonny Michel had 13 carries for 58 yards against the Cardinals. Only one carry against the Buccaneers. That was a bad job by Sean McVay. Look, I understand that with Akers back, you want to use him as the bell cow back? Are we sure that Cam Akers is that much better than Sonny Michel? I'm not saying that Akers is a terrible player or anything, but I don't think he's Marshall Faulk. If you're not gonna go with a 1A, 1B approach at running back, and that really isn't something that McVay likes doing, even when it was Michelle and Darrell Henderson as the Rams running backs. Henderson got the bulk of the carries. You've got to air the ball out. I'm okay with a 1A, 1B setup at running back, but if that's not what McVay wants to do, c'est la vie. Who am I to argue with Sean McVay? But it's clear as day that you can't trust Cam Akers a ton. I want Matthew Stafford to throw the ball like 45 times. Cam Akers should only have 15 carries. I want to see Stafford get everyone involved. Cooper Kupp, OBJ, Tyler Higbee, and Van Jefferson. I understand that Jefferson is questionable for this game with a knee injury, but I think the smart money is on him playing. I doubted the Niners basically this whole year. I criticized Garoppolo. I criticized Kyle Shanahan. I'll be fair. They're a very good team. Do I think that Kyle Shanahan is still a little overrated? Maybe a little. Not as much as before. Again, 2 NFC title game appearances in 3 years is really impressive. The thing is, though, Shanahan has been with the Niners for 5 seasons and only has 2 winning seasons and is a below 500 head coach. We talk about him as a great head coach. He's not a great head coach. He's not bad, but he's not great. But look, I'll be fair. The Niners are better than I thought they'd be. I didn't think they'd beat the Cowboys. They beat the Cowboys. I didn't think they'd beat the Packers. They beat the Packers. But I just don't think they're any match for this Rams team. A Rams team with so much firepower. A Rams team that doesn't have their starting running back banged up right now. A Rams team that has a quarterback that you can trust to win you a football game by himself. The Niners don't have that. Give me the Rams. How fun would that be? A Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl. I could get behind that. I could get behind that very easily. I'll close this show out with some NBA Valk talk. Specifically on the New York Knicks. I was thinking about it last night. I haven't talked about the Knicks a lot this year. I was almost trying to look for an excuse to talk about them at some point because there's a lot I want to say about them, but I didn't want to, invent something that wasn't there. Something happened yesterday, and it's worth talking about the Knicks now. According to Brian Windhorst of ESPN, the Knicks have expressed a willingness to trade Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, and Kemba Walker. Think about where we were with those guys about 5 months ago. Those were 3 of the marquee moves that the Knicks made in the offseason. Bringing back Burks, signing Fournier, and signing Walker. Now they want to trade him? understand that buyer's remorse is common in the NBA, but it's not a good look to want to trade a guy 5 months after signing him. Okay, that's just not a good look. That's not how you're going to get big free agents to sign here. It's kind of funny. What did I say for years? Stars will come to the Knicks when they win. They made the playoffs last year. Granted, they lost in the first round, but they were in the playoffs. That enticed some notable names to sign with the Knicks. No superstars, but good players. Guys like Burks, Fournier, Walker. Derrick Rose came back. Nerlens Noel came back. So, okay, you didn't get any superstars, but you got some good players. Like, I think everyone was optimistic about the Knicks entering this season. But they have just been woefully inconsistent this year. They've gone through stretches where their starters have been dreadful, but their bench was great. Now it's the other way around. Kemba Walker was out of the rotation for a little bit. Then he comes back in and looks great. We've got Julius Randle acting like a buffoon, and you have the fans turning on him. The Knicks are 3 games under 500 right now. But they have the 5th best defense in the NBA in terms of opposing points per game. So what Thibodeau is preaching is working. He's just got to get this offense clicking. And that is something that has not happened. So does trading guys like Burks, Fournier, and Walker help the offense? No. No, if your biggest issue is offense, why would you trade 3 of your best offensive players? All 3 of those players are averaging over 11 points per game. All 3 of them are shooting over 38.5% from beyond the arc. With that being said, though, I could actually see the argument for trading Alec Burks. And I'm going to tell you why. It clears up a spot in the rotation for Cam Reddish. Reddish has only played 2 games with the Knicks. I think everyone wants to see what Reddish can do with the Knicks. I mean, I hated the fact that the Hawks gave him away to the Knicks. I thought that was a great trade for the Knicks. He hasn't really gotten a chance to strut his stuff. Why hasn't he gotten that chance? Because the Knicks have a lot of mouths to feed. I mean, you think back to the last Knicks game. It was against the Heat. The Knicks lost by 14, but Alec Burks was playing minutes that would otherwise go to Cam Reddish. It's nothing against Burks. I don't think Burks is a bad player. In fact, I wouldn't mind him on the Nets, but I would rather see Cam Reddish get those minutes than Alec Burks. Trading Fournier and Walker makes no sense, okay? Those guys are starters. Those guys are good players. I understand that Fournier has some games where he looks invisible. I totally get that, but you know what? That's what happens with microwave 3-point shooters. There are going to be games where they look really good, and there are going to be games where they look really bad. That's the nature of the beast. I like Fournier. I think there's a role for him on the Knicks going forward because they really don't have another shooter like him. I'm keeping Fournier. I'd also like to keep Walker. The only way that you would trade Kemba Walker would be to get a guy like Miles McBride more minutes. I'm not trading Kemba Walker, someone who I know is a very good player, not a good defender. Okay, totally get that. That's why Tibbs benched him a while back. But Walker's a really good player. There's a role for him in this league. I can't say that about Miles McBride right now. I don't know who he is. It's just a big gamble to move on from a guy like Walker, a quality NBA player, to give Miles McBride those minutes when I don't know who he is. And not for nothing, but in limited time, he hasn't exactly set the world on fire. Like, he hasn't shown enough that would make me say, you know what, this guy deserves more minutes. Here's what the rotation for the Knicks should be based on Brian Windhorst's report. Walker, Fournier, Barrett, Randle, Robinson, and coming off the bench, Quickly, Grimes, Reddish, Toppin, and Gibson. Trading Walker and Fournier makes no sense. Trading Burks makes a ton of sense. But you know what? There's another guy who it would make sense for the Knicks to trade. The thing is, though, I just don't know how you're going to do it. And that's Julius Randle. Julius Randle's time with the Knicks is up. Randle was supposed to be the best player on the Knicks this year. He was supposed to lead them back to the playoffs. They were supposed to be better than a team that only won one playoff game. Instead, Randle has been the Knicks' best player, but the Knicks are 3 games under 500. And Knicks fans are upset about their team, and rightfully so. They should be better than this. Knicks fans have every right to be upset, but Julius Randle acted like an idiot. Alright, giving them the thumbs down is absurd. You can't insult the fans like that. I killed Randle for that when it happened. You know what? I'm still gonna kill him for it. And it would be one thing if he rebounded from that and played great. Since that stupidity, he has not played great since that stupidity. He hasn't eclipsed 25 points since he did that. I can't tell you how many stinkers I've seen him have. Against the Spurs, against the Pelicans, against the Cavs, against the Heat. The fall from grace for this guy is nothing short of insane. I mean, this guy went from being the best player on a Knicks playoff team to now every Knicks fan wants him run out of town on a rail. I mean, it's kind of funny. I spoke to 3 Knicks fans this offseason about Randle. They all said they're not sold on him. They all said they were not buying Randle stock. I questioned them It's like, wait a minute, this guy's the best player your team has had in years. Why are you so skeptical of him? Those people look like geniuses right now. It's amazing, this fall from grace. I don't even think they saw this coming. Maybe they thought he'd regress, but to this extent? To becoming public enemy number one among Knicks fans? To seeing all his stats go down? I don't think anyone saw this type of a drop-off coming. A little bit of a drop-off, okay, fair enough. This stark of a drop-off? No. No way did anyone see that coming. You know, the reality is, there are certain markets where, when the fans turn on you, it's best for everyone if you just leave. New York is one of those markets. Philadelphia is one of those markets. Chicago is one of those markets. Julius Randle's time with the Knicks is up, okay? It's not going to end well. There's no way that this relationship gets salvaged to the point where Knicks fans love Randle again. Like, even if the Knicks make the play-in tournament, and it's not impossible that they do, they're only half a game behind the Wizards for the 10th seed. If they lose in that tournament, you didn't make the playoffs, even if by some miracle you sneak into the actual playoffs, if you get destroyed in the first round, again, nothing's going to be forgiven. There comes a point where, when the fans are this vocal about wanting you gone, you've just got to engineer some type of a trade if you're Leon Rose. I'm not sure how it would be done. Do you see Ben Simmons happening? I don't. Do you see Damian Lillard happening? I don't. Maybe a trade with the Pacers? But how much better do you get with that trade? I don't know how the Knicks are going to get rid of Randle. I know that they need to. Alright, this relationship is unsalvageable. Like the Sixers' relationship with Ben Simmons. So I understand the theory of your headache for my headache, but I don't think the Sixers would do a Simmons for Randle trade. I think they think too highly of Simmons. And even then, I don't see Simmons working in New York. If he couldn't handle Philly, would he handle New York well? I don't think so. I don't know how the Knicks are going to get rid of Randle. All I know is they need to. The NBA trade deadline is February 10th. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the Knicks. I think Alec Burks will definitely go. Julius Randle probably won't go. I think he goes in the offseason. I'll say this. Next year's Knicks team will look very different to this year's Knicks team. You'll get a New York Islanders show on Monday night. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying, shout out to you, Peter Robbins.